Hello, everyone. I'm Gary Laubach, along with John Leone, filling in for Mike Joseph this week as we get ready finally to play another home game. We've been away, obviously, for out of the first 5 weeks. We've been away for 4 of those games. I'm sure the Leopards are looking forward to coming home for sure, as they will take on the Georgetown Hoyas. They're 3-2. We're 3-2. We're 1-0 in the Patriot League, along with Holy Cross and Bucknell. They haven't played a game. Everybody else has played a Patriot League game. They have not. They're coming off a bye week. All of that does not sound good, John.
Well, not only are they coming off a bye week, but they're coming off a win over a team that had previously beaten Lafayette. And all that, as you said, Gary, having said that, this is a Georgetown team, and you and I have followed Lafayette football for ages. They always give us a hard time. In their worst years, they give us a hard time. It's just one of those teams. And this is not one of Georgetown's worst teams.
And they gave us a hard time last year. That ball game was they just went up and down the field, 35-25. The teams put up 777 yards, and Georgetown had most of them, 428 yards and 3 touchdowns in that ball game for the Hoyas. John, I think, I don't know whether the fans are disappointed so far in Lafayette's last couple of ball games, or whether or not they should realize that this past week, 33% of the teams that were ranked lost their ball game, and most of them to unranked teams.
It is an unbelievable season nationally in the game of football. Look at from the pros all the way down to even some places high school. But, Gary, I agree with you. Managing expectations is a huge component of being a head football coach. And I asked John last week about the mentality of the team. And it was just a couple of short years ago when we would not be concerned about the margin of victory. And so you've got to be careful about that. John told me every team in the Patriot League, it's such a competitive league, it's evenly matched. There are going to be very few blowouts. And
there's no question, there's a target on our back, and it doesn't help when you play Columbia, their first ball game of the year, a brand new coach. Those guys are sky high when they come in to play us. This game, Georgetown's first Patriot League ball game. They've had a bye week, coming off a big win over Columbia. Everything sets up to be a great football game. Let's take a look at the Leopards' last ball game, John, against Fordham. They come out. A W is a W. I don't care what anybody says. A W is a W. They got it. They won the Patriot League Open. There's no question they have a target on their back. Everybody wants to beat the Leopards, particularly in the Patriot League. We had our problems, particularly special teams, again, caused us all kinds of problems. We had to come back. We had to play hard. I thought our defense played very, very well, particularly at the end of the game.
We talk about complementary football, Gary, and you're right. Not only did we win that football game, but we won that football game on the road in a league opener for us. I think that you mentioned a target on our back. Well, sure, Columbia first game. Fordham came into that game 0-5. What does the Patriot League opener represent? It represents a new beginning.
Correct.
So, you come into that game and already you're at a little bit of an emotional disadvantage. That's been the uphill battle that the Leopards have had to contend with. But physically, I think special teams, which has been a bright spot for us before last week, they kind of stubbed their toes in special teams last week.
Yeah, a blocked punt, a blocked field goal, those things can't happen to win ball games. If you can overcome that, and they did, then certainly it's a good win, no question about it. Gabe Du Bois, I thought, was outstanding last week. Particularly, they picked on him at the end of the game. Obviously, they're running away from Sekou White. They don't want to throw the ball towards Sekou. He's an All-American. But I'll tell you, Gabe Du Bois stepped up.
It's terrific when you force a team to throw away from your premier defensive back and you kind of go from the frying pan into the fire. Gabe Du Bois did a terrific job. And, when we start to talk about Georgetown, Gary, that challenge is only going to get more difficult.
Yeah, we'll talk about their quarterback and wide receivers in just a moment. We stopped their running game. Lafayette was the best runner, still is actually, in the Patriot League. We held him down. Preston Forney with a great game, 12 tackles. He had a sack, forced fumble. That's not too bad.
Gary, I was watching the game and I wonder, and that was the headline: Lafayette stuffs Fordham's run game. Do you rob Peter to pay Paul? It was a good game plan because obviously it worked, and we came away with a win. But did that allow the quarterback to escape a couple of times? We saw the first touchdown where they jammed the middle and they kind of got sucked in. Overall, you did what you needed to do to get a win on the road.
Yeah, and congratulations to Gabe. We should mention he was the Patriot League Defensive Player of the Week, so good for him. On offense, Jamar, 111 yards. That's his 11th career 100-yard rushing game. Troy Bruce, who will be part of the press conference this week, 72 yards and a touchdown. Caracia Stewart, Dallas Holmes, Ethan Hozak. The tight ends really got involved, both of them with touchdowns. You had to be kind of amazed by the great catch by Elijah Stewart in as an important down as there was in that ball game.
When you have a premier receiver, and Lafayette's got a stable, I mean, we've talked about all of them, but your go-to guy has been, in big situations like that, making the circuits catch, has been E.J. Stewart. He has been really, really clutch in those situations, so it's good to see that. The thing about Jamar Curtis that stands out, Gary, is I'm not sure how many 25-plus yard runs he's had this year. What impresses me about Jamar is that he has been getting it. He's been grinding it out. The defense is keying on him, so he's not below getting those tough yards, the 6-yard carries, the 4-yard carries, getting the first down carry. Really impressed with his effort this year.
Okay, let's talk about the challenge now with Rob Scarlatta's team. He's been the head coach for 10 seasons. His ball club comes in 3-2. First Patriot League game we have mentioned. Last year, their offense was spectacular. This year, they're 5th in the league in offense. Lafayette, by the way, is number 1. They're 1st in the league in defense. Lafayette is number 4. So that's kind of a balance there. But we're going to see Danny Lauder again. Lauder, 6'3", 225, a junior. Last year set the school record against the Leopards, 428 yards passing. In the game last year, and he tied the completion record, 35 completions in that ball game. I imagine right now some of the defenders have a headache.
Well, where the film session is defensively, at least. Lauder's numbers are very similar to Dean DeNoble. As a matter of fact, Dean is number 1. Lauder is right behind him at number 2. He completes 65% of his passes. He's averaging about 250 yards a game. The one little blip that I looked at, he's got 5 touchdown passes, 4 interceptions. But again, that can happen when you're such a pass-heavy offense. You're going to have to throw the ball more. It's not to disrespect their running game, but this clearly statistically has been a pass-first offense.
No question about it, and great receiver Jimmy Kibble, who will be in this ball game, another junior, 28 catches, tied for the team lead with Nicholas Dunham. Both of them are outstanding. Kibble last year against us, he had 203 yards receiving, 6 catches, a couple of TDs. He would be a nightmare for anybody.
He would, and you said that about Kibble, but Dunham was the honorable mention for. He got a couple of votes for Player of the Week. So, you overload to one side, and then the other guy's going to beat you. They account for about 34% of all of Georgetown's offense as receivers, which is pretty remarkable. Again, we've got Sekou White and we've got Gabe Du Bois, and those guys are going to have their hands full. It's going to be the matchup I'm looking for.
I don't think there's any question about that matchup right there. Those two against their two, that's going to be the best part of this football game. At running back, they're okay. They're not a great running back team by any stretch. Naeem Kearney is their running back. He's a senior. He's averaging 4.9 yards per carry. That's not bad. He's got 6 touchdowns, 2nd in the league. They just don't put up huge rushing numbers.
No, they don't. And when you look at the numbers, Gary, overall, they have some respectable rushing numbers, but other than Kearney, they average less than 4 yards a carry. So they're trying to do it, but you have the sense they're running that football just to keep the defense honest. They want to make their money through the air. So again, if you can hold a team under 4 yards, generally speaking, a carry, which is what teams have been able to do. The thing that scares me about them defensively, Gary, they already have posted 16 sacks. We've had some issues getting to the quarterback. They've only allowed 5 so far this year. Those are pretty impressive numbers 5 games in.
Yeah, no question about it. Their defense is strong. Cooper Blumstrom is 29 tackles as a defensive lineman. He also has 7.5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks. probably their best defensive player, David Ely. He is the Joe Akabachi, number 35, the famous jersey. 43 tackles on the year, 3.5 tackles for a loss, and 3.5 sacks. But they're also good in secondary. Preston Murray is outstanding. He's got 21 tackles and 2 interceptions. Mason Gudger, from the moment we kick the ball off, you got to watch out for Mason Gudger. He's a freshman. He's got 2 kickoff returns for touchdowns.
He's explosive, Gary. I've seen a little bit on film, his acceleration, but he's a smart runner. He doesn't just put his head down and fly. Again, their special teams have been very, very good, and of course, punt and kickoff returns are part of special teams. So Gudger is going to be critical. Again, I think it's going to be imperative that we shore up our pass defense. This goes back to overall defense. I think we've got to pick up blitzes. We've got to be aggressive up front. You got to get some pressure from the 4 down linemen. That allows you to help in the defensive secondary. If you've got to bring any kind of pressure from the second level, that leaves some wide open spaces.
I think we'll end it, John, on what you think is the most important part of this ball game, and that's for us to get off to a good start. Hasn't quite happened the last 2 ball games.
No, and I think to your point earlier, Gary, being at home finally has got to give this team a boost. And again, I also think that what goes on in that locker room off the field this week, what has gone on, is going to be critically important. These kids have got to understand, they're 1-0 in the Patriot League. Everything is right there in front of us, and they can't be looking back and looking at the score differential or anything like that. Anything you get in this Patriot League, you've got to earn. This team has the mental makeup to do that. They've proven it. They've got good leadership. I'm really looking forward to Saturday.
We will be home for the next 3 ball games. John and Megan and Phil will be on the sidelines for our pregame show. That starts, by the way, at 12 o'clock. Football, the kickoff is at 12:30. Mike and I will be up in the booth. We certainly invite you, as always, to join us for what should be a great Patriot League matchup. Again, my thanks to Will Newsidle for helping me with some background information. Thanks to him. Thanks to John for filling in for Mike. Mike and I will be in the booth on Saturday. Please join us. That's Behind the Mic.